ProPublica published quite a scoop about Trump DHS Secretary.
I wrote all of that story. That entire story came from me, and it was stolen from me from ProPublica. Now I'm having to watch mainstream media also profit immensely off of my hard work. So if this reaches ProPublica, my Venmo's in the bio. So I was going to let it go, but the messages from people that have read my work and know it's my work haven't stopped, and watching it continue on my FYP is just too much right now. Not only did I write the same thing in the article I sent ProPublica and send a text message about it.
And one of the firms benefiting is deeply tied to Noam's inner circle. I'll explain more. A South Dakota-based company called Strategy Group.
Strategy Group is Ohio-based, not South Dakota-based, but I gave ProPublica that information, connecting all of them in my notes here from July. And
A mysterious Delaware LLC created just days before it won the award is listed. Anyone who knows a good tax evasion scheme, usually Delaware's in there somewhere.
there is something called Safe America Media LLC, and as you guessed it, just like Kristi Noem's business, it is more of an entity in Delaware. This author cannot say that they already knew all of this because they specifically state that they didn't know this about the LLC in July. ProPublica goes on to say, little is known about the Delaware company, which is called Safe America Media, and lists its address as the Virginia home of a veteran Republican operative, Michael McIlwain. Associated with Mike McIlwain, it is technically a nonprofit, and they have gotten, they just became a thing in February of 2025. ProPublica states the main recipient listed on the contracts is a mysterious Delaware company which was created days before the deal was finalized. So just shortly after she became DHS Secretary. Federal records show the contracts have gone to two firms. One is a Republican ad company in Louisiana called People Who Think, which has been awarded $77 million. Not only sent a voice note telling them who the contractors were, but I wrote an article giving the contract number and the names of the contractor and posted it on Substack by May. Trying to stay ahead of things and make sure the story got out, I made this video, which I also sent to ProPublica. Said that one of the ways Republicans will grift public funds to themselves within these campaigns and make it legal, they will do so by setting up media companies. And then that way, the people in charge of the money can create commercials or ads, including a weekly series featuring herself cosplaying. So who's getting that $200 million? Let's look at the first one, People Who Think, LLC. Who owns that? Jay Connaughton. Just happens to be the Republican Party of Louisiana. Never guess who the other vendor is. Do you remember when I told you about this?
In South Dakota, the ad. You should care about who made it. Because according to ProPublica's new reporting, that ad was made by a company called Strategy Group.
Because she started doing that in South Dakota, like coming up with reasons that something was an emergency and didn't need approval, and then just giving the contract anyway, which is how she got involved with Ben Yoho Media, Corey Lewandowski, and Go West Media. It's a giant racketeering state. And so,
Which is run by a man who is not only the husband of Noam's chief DHS spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, yes, she's a something, but also has personal and business ties to Noam herself. Contract to. I should say the DHS said in a statement to ProPublica that it does all of its contracting by the book. Okay. But the office in charge of funding ad contracts at DHS is the Office of Public Affairs, which is run by none other than DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin.
keep in mind, these contracts happened February 13th and February 14th. I'm having this conversation with them in July. They ultimately get married in August, which they say in their article, I say in my article, just worded slightly differently. I not only sent them that, but I sent this video.
This is not the first scandal about Noam and this company, the Strategy Group. See, back when she was governor, Noam's office hired Strategy Group to make these ads. Yet again, a lot of costumes going on here. This is Noam dressed as a state trooper, a construction worker, a nurse, an accountant. Here's Noam dressed as an electrician, a welder, a dentist, and my favorite.
So not only did I tell them about Ben Yoho and Strategy Group, which is also linked to Corey Lewandowski, I told them about this very important thing that happened in South Dakota with Go West Media in the no-bid process. So here is our side-by-side. Keep in mind, I sent them to this in July. I published it in May.
South Dakota taxpayers. Those ads were the result of a bidding process, and the state says the process was done by the book. But ProPublica reports that a former official from Noam's South Dakota governor's office has since alleged that the bidding process was rigged, corroborated that account, showing that senior Noam administration officials pushing for Strategy Group to get the contract.
Did I write that and send it to ProPublica? They even cited the same source I sent them, and it was Sioux Falls Live. In addition to that, like I said, on the notebook pages I sent them, I specifically stated they used the urgency or emergency clause in South Dakota, and they're replicating the exact same thing now that she is at DHS. In fact, there was a case brought about this because what ProPublica is missing about this entire story, because they chose to focus so heavily on the Delaware LLC, which is really probably just a PBR LLC to a larger media company, even though it's still crooked, is the whole Jay Connaughton and inexperienced one. Because what happened in this closed bid process, as I told ProPublica, was that they were allowed to see all of the 7 other bids, and they stole one. That is also currently happening under Tricia McLaughlin and Ben Yoho right now at DHS, as I demonstrated in this video that I also sent them. She took illegally taxpayer funding and sent it to a man called Ben Yoho. Ben Yoho is an associate of Corey Lewandowski and the owner of Go West Media. Media companies are incredibly important in this racketeering operation because what Noam has to do is create projects such as her commercials, right, in order to justify sending it to basically shell companies masquerading as media companies. They don't really actually have experience. The initial vehicle was the Freedom Works Here campaign, again orchestrated by Ben Yoho, Corey Lewandowski, and Go West Media. They orchestrated a scheme by which they pretended to send an RFP out where 7 different companies bid to do the commercials for Freedom Works Here. All while knowing the whole time that the money was always going to go to Go West Media, Corey Lewandowski, and Ben Yoho, and starts a media campaign. And then she starts stealing trade secrets. But who is now in charge of her media and communications? Tricia McLaughlin, who just announced her engagement to Ben Yoho of Go West Media.
There's all that. Noam, of course, denies those allegations. I should note that MSNBC has not independently verified ProPublica's reporting. But if this reporting is accurate, and it's very detailed, and a company run by someone with personal and business ties to Noam herself has managed to score government contracts, huge ones, from Noam's agency with no bidding process and literally zero transparency, that should at least very much be a call for an investigation.
The article says that, but that's basically what I've been saying this whole time. And so my first question is this. I came forward with all of this information 3 weeks after the contracts were awarded, after I had already written and shared all the information about Ben Yoho. And the day that they got engaged, I had been reaching out and making content saying, hey, these two are married. Oh, also, they're using AI and doing other things to steal work for their media, which is important because it shows just how much of the fees that they are pocketing. So number one, why did we wait this long to come out with a story that virtually every single line I gave to you? There are 2 lines in there, and one of them comes from an interview that I didn't conduct. The text, I know you guys don't like to see that on screen, but my question for ProPublica is why now? Because by March, I had already started putting this content out. By July, I had given names, LLCs, contract numbers, and everything. And the point of seeing around the corner, right, is to avoid the bad thing. Why are we doing this so many months later? Number one. Number two, it shouldn't have taken that long since there's virtually no line of that article besides one that I didn't write, even if I wrote it differently. Finally, I don't understand why the article completely fails to look at people who think in the whole Tricia McLaughlin page and the way that they're using the Department of Homeland Security's Facebook page, because that's what they're doing right now. Yes, all of those voice notes, all of that writing was sent to one of the authors of that ProPublica article. And so my other question is this: why are there 3 authors on that when none of you wrote anything or came up with any of that information firsthand? Even like it's the first time it happened, but this is one of the biggest news stories in the United States right now, and I have had it for months with 0 credit to my name whatsoever. And this is just another repeat of what has happened on this app with other stories that I've broken. Part about it, in addition to probably being an award-winning piece, is that I wasn't even going to say anything. I was going to take the L until people continuously encouraged me or were reaching out to me because they just thought it was my story, and it still hasn't stopped.